audio pin. There are 7 other callers on the call.
All go to all adjustment go to USD adjustment. And post adjusted value, you go to USD total. So in our example, all the input which I did, it was salary. I input 10,000 to salary. USD adjustment. How do I get the right value? When I plus 90,000 to my 10,000, I get the right value. USD total. After adjustment, I get the right value. Please, whoever log in with not specify email. This exactly happen. Not all entities allow adjustment. Only some entities allow adjustment. So what we do, at this point of time, we only specify for which entity adjustments are allowed, for which entity adjustments are not allowed. So we'll tag a property over here, select an entity, under manage metadata, select entity and allow adjustable. Do you see that? Allow adjustment from children and allow adjustable. The two important property play an important role. So we have a list of entities over here where journal can be posted. Can you please mute? It is distracting me. Kindly mute. Thank you. When I select a member adjustment, these are all entities where adjustment are taking place. Adjustment can be done. Okay, now I'll show you how to take how adjustment take place. I'd like to show you one error messages. If your entity is not allowed for adjustment, and if you still post adjustment to the given entity, it pop up an error message. I quickly create one journal. I'll show you in subsequent session how to get journal. Right now I quickly create one journal and I'll try to post journal to the entity where adjustments are not allowed. Right now adjustments are allowed to these entities. I'll take a snapshot of this. Under entities, I can create a list of entities. The list of entities where adjustments are allowed. You see entity name is adjustment entities. Right? I'll pick up some entity where adjustments are not allowed. What I do, I'll remove it from Foster City, I make it false. Right now, Foster City is adjustable. I will remove it from the list. So, Foster City is adjustable entity now. Right. What I do, I go to my metadata properties, manage metadata, and uncheck this to Foster City. Select Foster City and allow adjustable, I make it uncheck and save it. After save, I load back to my application. I'll just quickly check my timestamp. Today once again, entity adjustable. I'm doing a little fast, but that is not our focus area. We just want to understand what does adjustment entity do. Only pay attention to this part. You see, Foster City remove. It was here and I uncheck this option, so it is removed. This is all list of all entities where adjustments are allowed. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to forcefully I'm going to post some inputs through journal and my system will pop up an error message. As I said, I'll show you how to create journal later. Right now I like to show you if some entities are not allowed adjustment and you forcefully input values, it will pop up an error message. Whatever properties we set now, it's a baseline for entire application. And I go to journal, create one journal. I just select all the default property. My focus area is to select my entity called adjustment, entity called Foster City. Right? I've chosen an entity called Foster City. When I click on scan, I get an error message, invalid entity specified. I cannot correct numbers for the given entity because Foster City is not adjustable. So this is a baseline you define at this point of time for which structure of our application adjustments are allowed, for which structure adjustments are not allowed. It is quite difficult for us to figure out. So this input has to be coming from your business team only. Right. So I keep on adding the requirement. This is a metadata sheet. I keep on adding what is missing in the requirement which come from my ERP source. Next is each entity has a security class associated. We have not discussed security class now. Security class, it's a text file which maintains information about who can do what. The simple file. So not all entity can be seen by everybody. Basically, in financial application, there is a concept called cost center management. We have an accountability matrix. We follow accountability matrix. This is one document. Accountability matrix says who can access what. So each cost center, there is one owner. Like when you get your salary, if you look at carefully in your salary statement, you have a cost center mentioned. It is a common pattern we follow in India, US as well. In cost center, there is a name of the person mentioned. Or similarly, when business revenue done, there is a revenue center. There's somebody's owner. So all the expenses fall under me. Only me can access it. Nobody else can access. It is important that we associate each entity who can access, who cannot access. So in typical application, objects, like in our example, entity member, we assign to the user and group directly. This is exactly happen. But in HFM, it is different. Object, entity is not assigned to user and group directly. It is assigned to security class, which in turn assigned to users and group. Why it is so? The model, the structure, the architectural design of HFM is designed in such a way that the maintenance and administration can be taken from admin team and non-technical or semi-technical people can manage it. so that we can avoid or minimize the administration cost. Security class embedded in this model, keeping the same purpose. It's a simple text file. You can copy and paste anywhere. You can move across this. No special skill required. Extract security. I'll extract security, existing one, and show you. Right now my security file may be empty. That's fine. A security class may be empty. It simply says who are the different users, and what access they have. Right? What exact access we'll discuss later, but who are the users and what they can access. What are the role associated with each user? What user can do? Like John is one user, he is a reviewer. He is the second level of reviewer. So I'm sure you have not seen any product in your life before that where you can open security file and see. People might think security breach, but it doesn't store credentials. It doesn't store username and password. It stores only who can access what. Because I log in as an administrator, I do have access to access security. Every time I want to move security from my one server to another server, tab to QA curated web, I can simply copy this file and move it somewhere else. So each entity has a security class, and this way you define who can access what. For example, Fossil City can be accessed by whom? We define security class. This security class, what you see over here, it is coming from my, I closed it, from a security file. You see this security class is a logical grouping of security. And it is, I've got 4 security class, one for the people US, one for administrator, one for Europe, and another one for corporate. This security class maps to which entity? If I log in with US, if I belong to security class US, I can access Forster City. There's another entity called security as partner. This is used for intercompany transaction. I'll talk it a little later. I'll talk this with intercompany transaction example. Next important thing to define whether the entity can be partner in intercompany transaction or not. Not all entity can be intercompany transaction. Not all entity can be intercompany transaction. Again, we go to the requirement sheet. In your source ERP, it is hardly mentioned that which entity is intercompany, which is not. Not all entities participate in intercompany transaction. Only some entities participate. Whichever entity participates in intercompany transaction, which tag to yes. So I add another column and go back to my business and say, please tag those entities which are considered to be intercompany transaction. Whichever entity considered to be intercompany transaction, automatically added into my ICP dimension. See this ICP dimension is blank or gray out. If it is gray out, it demonstrates it is not user-defined entity. It is not user-defined dimension, the system-defined dimension. All the system-defined dimension cannot be controlled directly over here. It is being controlled or managed by system automatically. So I select entity, and I see the property is ICP. Is a given entity ICP. Now I'll show you what is this. We'll take a snap of this. ICP dimension associated with entity. ICP, take a snapshot of this. And I create a new paintbrush. And you see in this example, I don't have Foster City. In this example, I don't have Foster City or Sunnyvale and Foster City are missing in this example, ICP dimension. Now what I do, I'll add Foster City and Sunnyvale, ICP equals true, I make it true. I go to my metadata and I go to entity, and I Foster City and Sunnyvale, I make it is ICP true, right? Both of them I made it is ICP true. Change them, save it. Is ICP true means now system can participate into intercompany transaction. I change it, and I am going to load this into back to my application. Right, explore data, go to ICP dimension and take a snapshot. You see this, now I got two more entities, Sunnyvale and Foster City. Which was not there because I tagged a property called is ICP true. The moment you make is intercompany transaction true, automatically the given member add up in a ICP dimension. How to use exactly ICP dimension we see later, but this is controlled through entity dimension. You see they are related to each other. So all these are the important property of entity dimension. Right? Designing entity dimension and common chart of account, two major activities of designing HFM application. These are two major activities. The success of the project is greatly depend how accurately you design these two entities. In the first phase, we try to keep our HFM application identical to ERP. The way entity structure given in ERP, I put everything into HFM, and as I receive request, I modify. It's an incremental update. It may also possible. It takes 2 years to you to stabilize your application, because as user access this, we tune or change our application according to their feedback. Next are the simple properties like currencies. You can have as many currency as you want. Currency is considered as a dimension, not a property. There's a difference. What is currency? I will tell you. For each application, you define one currency. Now, in your EPM application, on the dimension library, under HFM, you see currency is a dimension, right? The dimension. We define different currencies. But for classic application, currency is a property. You don't see currency over here. It's not a dimension. It's a property. Under manage metadata, you open metadata, and you see so far I've only 3 currency. I can add more currencies as I want. Properties are pretty straightforward. I can add new currency, Canadian dollar, description of this, scaling, decimal places, translation operator, it's a divide or multiply. So when I convert from one currency to another currency, it is either divide or multiply. For example, INR to USD. 1000 INR equals to 20 USD. So what operator it is? It's a divide. Another way around, USD to INR, it's a multiply. So when you define one currency to another currency, what is your translation operator? And is this currency displaying intercompany transaction or not? You define this. So pretty straightforward, all these 4 properties. Decimal place, operator, and the entity displaying intercompany transaction or not. When I look at my EPM application, property name. The only thing is you get scaled property. So it's unit 10,000, 10,000. It's like, how do you want? What is a comma separator? Is defined. Like in different region we define. In India we call 1 lakh. This is how we represent. In US we call this 100,000. There's a different. We call 1 lakh, they call 100,000. It's only comma separator, but it makes a big difference because users are more comfortable reading 1 lakh. They are more comfortable reading 100,000. This decimal place, some small thing, but adds a great value. Think of entity dimension, currency dimension, and there has to be currency for each entity you define currency. Currency dimension is important in a way that the system has to pick one of the currency from given list. System has to pick one of the currency from given list. What I mean over here, see this. We'll take application 1. I have a currency dimension over here. Currency, right? I am bound to choose one of the currency from the given list. So if I go to my entity, select my default currency. When I click on currency option, I cannot make input. If you try to type any value, you cannot type it. You are bound to choose select value from the given list. So it is coming from currency. Currency controls this behavior. You have to select currency only from the list for the given entity or for entire application as well. The entire application, there is a property called default currency. So default currency value should be one of these two currencies, one of the given currencies. This is unit 10,000, 10,000 lakh, 10 lakh, 100,000 million, like this, 10 million and billion. Then we have a scenario. This is the third important dimension. If I say your HFM application has got three most important dimensions which decide the complete control flow of HFM application. Your scenario dimension is one of them. Scenario is one of them. We'll talk about scenario first and then talk about calendar. Scenario is third important dimension. Scenario controls the behavior of your planning and budgeting process. Now, HFM planning both share some common functionality. Oracle offers HFM and planning as independent product, whereas some other company like SAP follow. For them, planning and consolidation is a one product. They cater to the customer as a one product. Oracle cater them as a separate product because the origin of planning and HFM are two different vendors. Hyperion acquire them and finally Oracle acquire them. But therefore there are certain overlapping functionality between your HFM and planning. Many planning activity can be done in HFM. Scenario dimension defines the same thing. Scenario dimension represents a set of related data. It's actual budget and forecast. We'll go one by one. So you may have actual budget forecast, revised budget, multiple version of budgets. You can have variance like actual versus budget, forecast, and so on. Forecast, before we talk about scenario, we need to understand scenario window. Okay. When you do a closing process, we define a room for closing process. Maybe you're doing quarterly closing or half year closing. We have a window for budget window, and forecast window. In forecast window, people are asked to input the forecast values. For example, you are a planner, you belong to HR team. So your manager will ask you to forecast the expenses for 2014 or 2015 now. So So I'm forecasting my expenses for now, calendar 2014, quarter 4. Quarter 4. Forecasting is writing, so it means budgeting, forecasting both means writing back to your system. On one hand, you're writing back, on another hand, people are consolidating. For example, forecasting is going on with consolidation. On one hand, users are forecasting, on another hand, people are consolidating. What happens at given time when you consolidate and you perform variance? As part of consolidate, you perform variance, actual and budget. So actual versus budget, you are doing it. Actual versus forecast. When given time when I forecasted, I found this value. When I did budgeting, I found this value 4,500. Right after 2 minutes, I did the same thing. I found a different value because between T1 to T2 time, my value got modified. Somebody made some changes. As a result of this, my data is inconsistent. People think data is inconsistent because forecasting or consolidation happening together, and it doesn't happen in real world. It has to be controlled some way. So we define a forecast window, and we say people are allowed to forecast for a given days. As long as forecasting is going on, we do not allow people to consolidate. So we add a window. In Windows, we say, for example, in my case, we have a window called -0 plus 3 business day. When we do, so -3 business day would be 26, 29, 30. There is -3 business day, and +3 business day would be next 3 days, 1, 2, 3. So this is to be controlled. That's one important thing. One should be knowing that about scenario dimension. Next, about scenario dimension. Scenario dimension could be member like actual budget forecast. In addition to this, we have a forecast rolling scenario dimension. Your client may be requesting cash flow for next 12 months. They want 3 months cash flow. This is their needed. They want 13 months cash flow pattern. 13 months, you don't have 13 months in a given year. So what will be 13 months? September is going on. September 2013 to September 2014. This is 13 months. You also have month over month. So this defines what was your cash in September 2013 and what is your cash in this month. Previous year, same month. This year, same month. We also have rolling forecast. Rolling forecast is something like this. If it is 12 months rolling forecast like this. 1 plus 11, 2 plus 10, 3 plus 9, something like this. 1 plus 11, 1 month of actual. In the month of January, my forecast would be 1 month of actual and 11 months of forecast. 2 plus 10, I have 2 months of actual and 10 months of forecast. This way we get 12 months of data, whereas some of them is forecast, some of them is actual. What exactly your business wants, this is what you need to identify, because are they doing cash flow projection? If they are doing cash flow projection, profit loss projection, balance sheet projection, we need these elements as well. So in order to reserve the fund, I want to reserve fund for my 2015, for my HR hiring. I will apply this concept. I will reserve this fund. For example, we have a HR hiring for 2015. We reserve fund of $1,200 USD. In the month of January, we spend. Let's say 120. How much remaining? Whatever is subtract from there, 1080.
So tan 80 would be allocated in turn tan 80, right? Minus 120 equals to tan 80. So tan 80 would be allocated for remaining months from February to December. This all information need, and this is all controlled through scenario dimension. So people during this day to this date only write option allowed during window when budgeting window is open. Remaining all the days it's a read only, write operation. All the days is a read only. That's the basic about it. Let's see. Scenario dimension define the frequency for the scenario data. The data is how data is going to be loaded. Pattern is actual is loaded on actual is read only, right? And it often come on monthly. It is not essentially it come even year quarterly or maybe twice in a month. Often the pattern is data come from ERP in monthly. Budget is often done on quarterly. Forecast is done on monthly, right? Primarily. What I want people are disallow to input value on monthly. People are disallowed to input value monthly. Right? I'll show you. In case we have some other member, it's quarterly. Put a scenario over here and select period. Scenario and I should put period. Okay. Do you see the white box and pink color? White box user input is allowed, pink box user input is disallowed. For actuals, data can be input monthly. I'm inputting data, but it will be read only. For actual budget forecast, data input is allowed for monthly, but for quarterly, data input is allowed only for given quarter. This is also part of your planning process. Right? So which property controls is here? The property calls default. Select scenario, actual, default frequency is month or periodic, MTD, budget, default frequency periodic, forecast, default frequency periodic, but for quarterly, default frequency is QTD. People can input value for the given quarter, not for month. It's called default frequency where user input is allowed. Default frequency where intercompany transaction is allowed. Now, some companies say intercompany transaction is not relevant for the external organization. It's not for external stakeholder. The investors are not bothered about what is intercompany transaction. You don't need to show your intercompany transaction to any external bodies. You don't have to show it to the taxation department. You don't have to show to anybody else. Intercompany transaction internal. So you say intercompany transaction, intercompany elimination, and adjustment is low in priority. So you decide to do it in year end. You do this in year end closing process. Right? Whereas one company say no, all the intercompany transaction I want to do it on only at month end process. Because year end, lot of there would be high volume of data and it's quite bulky to do all the intercompany transaction at year end. So some companies say we would do it at month end process. So where intercompany transactions are allowed. Frequency for intercompany transaction data we define over here. When company says I want data to be monthly, I select my entity, scenario, and let's say intercompany transaction done for my budget. default frequency. Default frequency for intercompany transaction. So we say all the adjustment we will be doing for monthly MTD for month to date. I could write over here QT date or YTD. So this one we'll talk about this in consolidation process. This will differ if I say YTD. All intercompany transaction will be deferred to the end of the year. It will not be coming up in between. This is the second property. We have a couple of more properties. We are running short of time. We continue to discuss about this of scenario dimension. All the property we are discussing, we would revisit them in the respective topic. So when I show you consolidation, if the numbers are not matching, we'll come back these property and says why numbers are not matching. I'm stopping here and we'll continue discussing about this in tomorrow's session as well. For now, I'm open for your question if you have any.
So for intercompany transactions, can one company do with multiple, or is it always one-to-one?
It is one-to-one. Intercompany transaction one-to-one. It could be one with itself and with another.
So I cannot be doing intercompany with, maybe on different account I can do, right, or no?
Intercompany is done between two entities.
Okay,
One
so
intercompany.
I might be doing transactions with two intercompanies, right? And how do I do that?
Yeah, intercompany we have not discussed. It's lined up next.
Okay.
We'll discuss in detail. Right now we are just talking about what is what. We have a separate complete session about intercompany.
And for the currency dimensions, so the extra members like the adjustment and the total, they are created based on the currencies that are defined in the profile or the metadata, right?
No, currency doesn't have adjustment. You're talking about entity.
No, in the current somewhere I have seen like USD adjust, USD total.
Value dimension.
Oh, value dimension creates those, okay.
Yeah, it is automatically gets created.
So basically the currencies are kind of in value dimension.
Value dimension is used in multiple purposes. One of the purpose of value dimension, so adjustment. For each entity, there are corresponding three children. In value dimension, whatever currency you have got, for each currency there are three children.
Okay. So they are two different, right? Value is different and then the currency is different.
Value system defined. Value has a separate role. Currency is simple. Natural meaning of currency, list of currencies. That's it.